All right, this is the book Finding Winnie, the true story of the world's most famous bear. This won a Caldecott Award, and if you can remember, Caldecott Awards had to do with once a year there is a award given out to a picture book that has beautiful illustrations, but that also has a great story. So if you look on the top, it has the Caldecott Award. The interesting thing about this book is that Finding Winnie has a true story behind it, but it's not a nonfiction book. So while it may be based on a true story, it is not a nonfiction book. For instance, I Survived might be about Hurricane Katrina, September 11th, Pearl Harbor, all true events that happened, but they're only based on those true events. It doesn't mean that everything in the book actually happened. So if you look on the side of this one, this is an E, M-A-T, which is the first three letters of the author's last name, but E being an everybody fiction book. So let's start Finding Winnie, the true story of the world's most famous bear. Could you tell me a story? Asked Cole. It's awfully late. It was long past dark and time to be asleep. What kind of story? You know, a true story, one about a bear. We cuddled up close. I'll do my best, I said. A very long time ago, about 100 years before you were born, there was a veterinarian who lived in Winnipeg. His name was Harry Colburn. A vegetarian, said Cole. Bear doesn't like vegetables. A veterinarian means an animal doctor. I know that, Cole said. That's what I'm going to be maybe when I'm big. If a horse had the hiccups or a cow had a cough, Harry knew how to make them feel just right. Harry's hands were never cold, even in Winnipeg, where winters are so frosty that icicles grow on the insides of your nose. That was just the kind of doctor he was. But a day came when Henry had to say goodbye to Winnipeg. There was a war far, far away, beyond the end of the country and on the other side of the ocean. And he was going to help. He would be caring for the soldiers' horses. Harry rode east on a train full of other soldiers. He leaned his head against the window, watching the land scroll by, wondering what it would be like to be so far from home. The train rolled through dinner and over the sunset and around 10 o'clock and into a nap and out the next day until it stopped at a place called White River. Harry decided to stretch his legs. On the train platform was a man on a bench with a baby. A baby? Said Cole, annoyed. A baby bear, a cub. Harry stopped. It's not every day that you see a bear cub at a train station. That bear has lost its mother, he thought, and the man must be the trapper who got her. What do trappers do? Asked Cole. It's what trappers don't do. They don't raise bears. Raise them? You know, I said, love them. Harry thought for a long time. Then he said to himself, there is something special about that bear. He felt inside his pocket and said I shouldn't. He paced back and forth and said I can't. Then his heart made up his mind and he walked up to the trapper and said, I'll give you $20 for the bear. Is $20 a lot? Asked Cole. Back then, I said, even more than a lot. Captain Colburn, said the colonel on the train as the little bear sniffed at his knees. We are on a journey of thousands of miles heading into the thick of battle, and you propose to bring this most dangerous creature? Bear stood straight up on her hind legs as if to salute the colonel. The colonel stopped speaking at once, and then, in quite a different voice, said, Oh, hello. The men of Harry's regiment squeezed by to have a look. I've decided to name her Winnipeg, Harry told them, so we'll never be far from home. Winnie, for short. They had a very long way to travel, and they had already gone 3 or 4 feet when Winnie grew hungry. What do bears eat? The men wondered. What don't they eat? Said Harry. Vegetables, Cole reminded me. Winnie ate vegetables, I said. She ate everything except onions. They brought her carrots and potatoes and apples and tomatoes and eggs and beans and bread and a tin of fish and some slop in a dish. But Winnie was still hungry. How about dessert? Said Harry, holding up a bottle of condensed milk. Taking the treat in her paws, Winnie lay on her back and hummed a happy song as she drank. The men roared. Henry and Winnie gathered with soldiers from all over Canada in the green fields of Valcartier. A whole city of tents had sprung up there. One was a hospital for horses, where Harry went to work. Winnie was in the army now. Harry taught her to stand up straight and hold her head high and turn this way and that, just so. Soon she was assigned her own post. Even the colonel agreed that Winnie was a remarkable bear. She might have been the best navigator in the whole army. If you hid something, could she find it? She could. What if it was farther away and farther still? Remarkable, he cried. In the evenings, both of them were too tired to move. When Harry thought about Winnie and the voyage across the ocean, his head said, I shouldn't. His head said, I can't. But his heart made up his mind. Nobody had ever tried to float so many people and animals across the Atlantic Ocean before. 30 ships sailed together, carrying about 36,000 men and 7,500 horses, and about one bear named Winnie. When they finally arrived in England, the regiment went to training on the Salisbury Plain, where it rained and rained and rained. But Winnie didn't seem to mind. She was the mascot of the 2nd Canadian Infantry Brigade, and she attended her post with vigor. One day, Harry came running while she was doing her exercises in the tent. You'll bring the whole place down, he said with a laugh. She had grown. It was winter when the order came. The time had come to fight. Winnie posed proudly with the men for pictures to send home to their families. Harry thought for a long time. His head argued one way and then the other, but his heart made up his mind. He went to Winnie and said in a serious way, There's somewhere we need to go. Winnie brushed the mud off of her nose and nuzzled in close. Harry drove all the way to the big city. Here we are, said Harry, the London Zoo. Harry took a deep breath. Winnie, this is going to be your home for a while, he said. She tilted her head. We're shipping out to France, he explained. I have to take care of the horses at the front. She rested her big head against him. I know you want to come, but it's not safe. Winnie's head bowed. Harry's hands were warm as sunshine as usual. There is something you must always remember, Harry said. It's the most important thing, really. Even if we are apart, I'll always love you, and you'll always be my bear. Is that the end? That's the end of Harry and Winnie's story, I said. But I don't want it to be over, said Cole. Sometimes, I said, you have to let one story end so the next one can begin. How do you know when that will happen? You don't, I said, which is why you should always carry on. Once upon a time, there was a little boy with a stuffed bear. He'd had his bear ever since he was a baby, but somehow the boy had never found the right name for him. He tried Teddy and Edward and even Big Bear. One day, the boy went to visit the London Zoo with his father, and there was a bear. A real bear, on the terraces there. Right away, the boy thought, there is something special about that bear. Her name was Winnie. They became true friends. The boy was allowed to come right inside her enclosure to play. Once the boy had found Winnie, he knew just what to call his stuffed bear. He named it Winnie the Pooh. and the boy was called Cole, said Cole. His name was Christopher Robin Moline. Christopher Robin would visit Winnie at the zoo, and then he would take his stuffed animal on all sorts of adventures in the wood behind his house. His father, Alan Alexander Milne, wrote books all about them. Harry's Winnie became Winnie the Pooh and has never been more beloved bear. But what about Henry? Cole asked. When Harry visited Winnie at the zoo, he saw how happy she was. She was being raised. She was truly loved. And that was all he had ever wanted from the moment they met at the train station in White River. So after the war, Harry returned to Winnipeg and his life as an animal doctor. Before long, he was married and had a son named Fred. And Fred had a daughter named Laureen. And Laureen had a daughter named Lindsay, which is me. And then I had a son. When I saw you, I thought, there is something special about this boy. So I named you after your great-great-grandfather, Captain Harry Colburn. I named you Cole. That's me? Said Cole in a whisper. That's you. And that's Winnie? Yes, I said, that's Winnie. And it's all true? Sometimes the best stories are, I said. Cole's eyes grew big, and he said nothing for a long time. Then he hugged his own bear close and let out a yawn that reached far away, and they both turned over and fell asleep. This is the real Harry Colburn. Harry kept his diaries throughout World War I, and this was his first diary entry from 1914. The diary from the page that Harry found Winnie. Bought bear for $20. These are the 3 soldiers with Winnie at her post. Winnie and Harry have what appears to be a laugh and a snack, and Harry and the fellow soldiers with their mascot, Winnie, right there in the center. This picture of Winnie and Harry inspired the statues that now stand in Winnipeg and in London. It was unveiled in 1992. This is a photo taken of Winnie and Christopher Robin in 1925 at the zoo after they became friends. Christopher Robin's father, A.A. Milne, watches from above. This is the official animal record that shows Winnie and when she began her stay at the zoo. And this is Lindsay and Cole in 2012 or 13 when she knew that she would name her boy after the great Harry Colburn.